Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Dezi Freeman. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Desmond Christopher Philby was born in the late 1960s and lived in Australia. He went by the name Dezi. He attended school in Melbourne. In 1977, his family moved 200 miles northeast to Wodonga. In his 20s, Dezi was an environmentalist and a devout Catholic. He went through a phase where he believed that the band Metallica was satanic and evil. Using a magnet, he erased cassette tapes containing their music. Dezi had several different jobs over the years. He worked as a freelance photographer, a diver, and a rock climbing instructor. Later, he struggled to maintain steady employment and mostly lived on welfare and a disability pension. After declaring himself to be a sovereign citizen, Dezi changed his name to Dezi Bird Freeman. He had pronounced anti-government and anti-authority views. Dezi had a particularly high level of contempt for the police. He was paranoid, antagonistic, and believed himself to be above the law. After an argument with his brother, Dezi moved to the Philippines. There he met a woman named Amalia, who went by the name Molly. The couple became romantically involved and married at some point. In the early 2000s, Dezi moved back to Victoria. He and his wife lived in a few different residences and had 3 children. Dezi had frequent conflict with neighbors. One neighbor, who said that Dezi spied on him using drones, filed a lawsuit against him. Dezi wasn't too happy about this and tried to arrest the magistrate in charge of the case. At Christmas in 2018, Dezi spent time with extended family members. He talked about religion, the impending apocalypse, and his hatred of the police. This was the last time he would see those family members. Due to his extreme views, Dezi became estranged from them. When the COVID pandemic struck, Dezi became increasingly unstable. He refused to get vaccinated or to wear a mask in stores. In 2021, Dezi was arrested at an anti-vaccine protest after attempting to prosecute the then Premier of Victoria, Daniel Andrews. At some point, Dezi and his family moved to Porepunkah, a town of about 1,000 people at the base of Mount Buffalo. The property, which Dezi rented, was located at 80 Rainer Track. Dezi lived in a bus on this property. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On August 26, 2025, at 10:30 a.m., 10 police officers descended upon the property where Dezi lived. They were there to execute a warrant over alleged offenses related to sex. According to the police, here's what happened next. A 59-year-old police officer approached the bus where Dezi lived. Dezi responded by firing through the door with a homemade shotgun. This officer was killed. Dezi then opened a window and fired on other officers. He killed a 34-year-old officer and wounded a detective. The detective survived by hiding under the bus until help arrived. Dezi took the pistols from the dead officers and fled into the bushland of Mount Buffalo National Park. Over 450 officers participated in a manhunt. They told residents to stay inside and keep their doors locked. On August 31, 5 days after the shooting, Molly made a statement through her attorney, offering condolences to the victims. Molly indicated that she does not hold any anti-authority views and respected the important work of the Victoria Police. On September 1, the police said that members of the community knew where Dezi was hiding and were offering him assistance. On September 5, a $1 million reward was offered for information leading to Dezi's arrest. The police probably thought this would test the loyalty of whoever may be helping him. This reward is the largest reward in the history of Victoria. At the time I'm making this video, Dezi Freeman is still on the run. There have been no confirmed sightings since Dezi attacked the police. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Various friends, acquaintances, and neighbors of Dezi Freeman have been interviewed by the media. Their descriptions of him and his bizarre behavior paint a picture of a disturbed man, one who believed he was exempt from the laws of society. Dezi was described as narcissistic, racist, misogynistic, arrogant, envious, petty, irritating, and self-absorbed. He He always wanted what other people had, but he did not want to work for it. There was a constant anger because people had possessions which he believed were better than his. One neighbor said that Dezi was envious that he owned property, saying, "It's not fair that you own all this." Item number 2, paranoia seemed to be a core trait that Dezi possessed. This was evident even when he was young. For example, he destroyed Metallica cassette tapes, believing they contained a satanic message. Later, he set up surveillance cameras wherever he was living. Dezi always believed people were out to get him, even though he didn't really have anything of value. His paranoia, combined with his grandiosity, led to this belief that he was so important, people would be highly interested in his activities and his property. Whatever Dezi happened to believe at any given time, he did so with intensity. He was action-oriented and worked diligently to make changes based on his beliefs. Dezi wasn't the type to stay on the sidelines. He viewed himself as a leader and a crusader. In terms of who he identified with as a role model, one acquaintance said that Dezi considered himself to be a Native American. He even had a teepee. This seems kind of strange. One would think that Dezi would have adopted a role model from Australia, where he lived, not one from America. I imagine he was influenced by how Native Americans have been characterized in American movies, which are viewed all around the world. One could argue that Dezi preferred Dances with Wolves over Crocodile Dundee. Item number 3. As a sovereign citizen, Dezi did not recognize the laws of the land. According to relatives, he refused to pay fines for parking and speeding violations and was allegedly involved in multiple road rage incidents. In 2020, to get photographs of a bushfire, which had been declared off-limits by the authorities, he dressed in firefighter's gear. Dezi was interested in technology, especially how it related to popular conspiracy theories. He participated in online forums for conspiracy theorists and had a particular fascination with the apocalypse. Videos featuring police brutality were among Dezi's favorites to watch. He developed a profound hatred of law enforcement officers, declaring that they were enemies of humanity. He said their lives were dedicated to inflicting their hate and superiority complexes on others and causing as much harm, misery, and destruction as possible. Dezi indicated that he wanted the police to be incinerated and called them Nazis, corrupt filth, and terrorist thugs. Item number 4, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Dezi Freeman was self-centered, grandiose, arrogant, condescending, vindictive, petty, adventurous, intelligent, resourceful, antagonistic, argumentative, angry, aggressive, violent, paranoid, impulsive, irresponsible, falsely believed he was special, had a sense of entitlement, and was exceedingly creepy. He believed that he should have everything that he wanted and hated the police because they prevented him from achieving this objective. Dezi did not want anyone telling him what he could or could not do. He believed that position of authority was his alone. He talked about the police having a superiority complex, but it was Dezi who felt superior. The sovereign citizen movement was attractive to Dezi because it addressed all his concerns in one tidy package. From his perspective, after he declared himself a sovereign citizen, Dezi did not have to follow the law. He was free to do whatever he wanted. One can make a good argument that the sovereign citizen movement is an expression of extreme narcissism. It is a way of rejecting not only the law, but the concept of the collective good. A sovereign citizen has abandoned any responsibility to be a good citizen. They believe they can do whatever they please, go where they want, and take property from others. They do not have to pay taxes. They do not owe anything to society at all, but they can still use infrastructure paid for through taxation, like public roads. By becoming a sovereign citizen, Dezi separated himself from society, rising to a position of glory and power, at least in his own mind. Through this philosophy, he could justify all his selfish desires. Now he wasn't greedy or self-centered, rather he was simply living the life he deserved. Everybody else in the world was wrong, and Dezi was right. This is what he truly believed. Dezi spent his life trying to beat the system so he could get what other people had. Becoming a sovereign citizen is the ultimate method to achieve this goal, because it places Dezi outside of the system. One could even argue he placed himself above the system. Knowing that someday the police would come looking for him, despite his sovereign citizen status, Dezi prepared for a confrontation. He was able to construct his own homemade shotgun and had no fear about using it. When 10 police officers showed up at his home, Dezi was prepared and willing to fight back. On the very day of the shooting, he was scheduled to see a clinician about his mental health symptoms. There is the sense that he had grown increasingly paranoid and angry. Being arrested was not an option. Dezi was prepared to make a last stand. After the shooting, Dezi disappeared into the bush. As far as what will happen now, it is anyone's guess. His son told the media that Dezi had Rambo-like skills, and specifically mentioned how Dezi had 10 times the capacity of the Rambo from the original movie, referring to First Blood in 1982. It is peculiar to single out this first movie as the most dangerous version of Rambo, considering how, in later sequels, he was mowing down enemies like they were weeds. To be fair, there is no doubt that Rambo was less effective in the 2019 movie Last Blood. By that point, Rambo wasn't exactly an unstoppable force of nature. His portrayal shifted from a relentless killing machine to a weary man who desired a nap more than revenge. Either way, one is left with the impression that Dezi is a capable survivalist who could evade the authorities for a long time. Despite this, I would be surprised if he was able to escape the police for much longer. It is just a matter of time before they find him, dead or alive. Investigators have brought up the possibility that Dezi is already dead, like maybe he did something to himself. This is a reasonable theory considering he is clearly not willing to be arrested. Now moving to my final thoughts. The sovereign citizen movement is fueled by paranoia, grandiosity, arrogance, and a massive sense of entitlement. Initially, the movement appeared to be comical and harmless, embraced by people who had a profound lack of insight and a poor understanding of the law. They may have been bizarre, but not homicidal. How dangerous could a man be if he designed his own license plate with the phrase "traveling, not driving," and really believed he would not get pulled over? Now, sovereign citizens are viewed as more determined to turn their fantasy into a reality. At some point, this requires the use of deadly force. Sovereign citizens have a level of narcissism so high, it becomes lethal. Those are my thoughts on the case of Dezi Bird Freeman. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Just a reminder, I have over 300 pre-release videos on my Patreon account. These videos are of the same quality as the videos I release to the public. When I put a video in pre-release status, it usually stays that way for several months, if not a year. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video.